Good morning and welcome to the Killik & Co market update. It's been a fairly busy week with lots of corporate results, so I just thought I'd touch on results from 3 different companies, and I think these results give quite a good insight into what's happening in the world at the moment. So first up we have IBM, very strong results indeed, and in fact it was the best day the stock had had since 2009. Now the standout division for IBM was cloud computing with very strong rates of growth, and for us this is something we're seeing across the whole of the cloud industry. Now businesses at the moment are busy switching from holding their data on their own servers to holding data in the cloud. And that's really benefiting all of the major cloud providers, for example, IBM, Microsoft, Amazon, and Google. And that's a trend that we very much expect to continue over the next couple of years. The next company we looked at was Ford. Very weak results, very disappointing to the market. And for us, this really highlighted what a difficult year it has been for the car manufacturing industry. Ford cited particular weakness in China and in Europe. So one reason for that is the trade war between the US and China. The Chinese currency has weakened considerably, and that's made it very difficult and in fact very expensive for the Chinese to import cars. So that's one reason for weaker demand from China. We've also seen a bit of a weakening in the European economy as well. Not to mention the number of different changes that have taken place in the European car industry. For example, this new emissions test, that's caused a bit of a backlog, and it means that less cars have been available to be sold. So that's one issue that will also have caused weakness in Ford's numbers. So again, for us, these weak numbers from Ford just highlight what a hard year it has been for car manufacturing. Last of all, we have Netflix. Results this week were actually a little bit weaker than expected, but what's notable about Netflix this week is that the company produced a film called Roma, which this week has received a number of Oscar nominations. And for us, this just shows how credible these streaming companies are becoming. So I think a lot of streaming companies, for example, Netflix, also Amazon, Apple, they have been making their own content for some time now. But this is the first time that one has received Oscar nominations for a film that they've produced. So for us, this really does show to what extent the media industry has been disrupted by these streaming companies. Yesterday there was an interest rate decision from the European Central Bank, and as expected they have left interest rates on hold, so the rate is still at 0, and also they have a negative deposit rate of minus 0.4%. So that means that any institutions wishing to hold cash with the European Central Bank actually have to pay for the privilege of doing that, and the intention of that is to encourage institutions to put their money to work rather than leaving it with the central bank. That's been the case now for a number of years. The European Central Bank hoped that negative interest rate policy would really encourage growth in the Eurozone, but as yet that hasn't really materialised. Growth and inflation in the Eurozone is still relatively low. Here's the chart here of the Euro Stoxx 50 index since 1986, and as you can see, since the financial crisis, the index hasn't really done that much, despite that negative interest rate policy and also despite the huge programme of quantitative easing. So it really is becoming a bit of a concern for the central bank. They did announce 6 weeks ago that quantitative easing was going to end. Since then, the data has weakened further, and I think there was a bit of expectation yesterday that perhaps they would announce some further monetary policy, but yesterday they just decided to leave rates on hold, and as yet nothing further has been announced, but it is a situation that we are keeping a close eye on. And last of all, the government shutdown in the US is still ongoing, and it's now the longest ever government shutdown that has ever taken place. Now, it's a standoff between the Democrats and Trump, and it's very difficult to know what's going to happen here because he wants the money to build his wall, the Democrats don't want to give it to him, and it's very hard to see which side is going to back down, if any. Here's a recent tweet from Trump where he said, "Build a wall and crime will fall." It seems to be his new saying, and it's very difficult to see what is going to happen here. But a particular concern for us at the moment is that thousands and thousands of federal workers are not being paid and are therefore not able to work. And one department that's not working at the moment is the department that produces economic statistics. So if that's not going to be produced, it's going to be very difficult for us to know how the economy in the US is truly performing. So if this shutdown goes on for much longer, that really is going to become quite a concern for us and for anyone else trying to keep an eye on the US economy. So definitely a situation to keep an eye on there. Moving on to the week ahead, still corporate reporting season, so lots more companies scheduled to release results. Next week is quite a big one for technology, and we've got results coming out from Facebook, Microsoft, PayPal and Amazon. That's it from us. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next Friday.